Hello everyone and welcome to building budgie number 4. In this stream we're going to be working on, if you can believe it, budgie-shell. In particular we're going to be working on the panel. So budgie-shell, you could think of it as the current graphical interface, the default desktop experience of Budgie Desktop. That is our budgie-shell for Budgie 11. So I'm going to be working on the panel, and in particular, I'm going to be working on integrating KConfig into said panel, which is going to be exciting. So my goal is to implement auto hide. At the very least, implement the schemas for auto hide, not actually the logic for it quite yet. Dock mode, sizing, transparency. I'm cheating here. I'm looking at my tasks that I'll be showing off in a sec, and which output it should render on. So I will go ahead and show you that here. So what we have here is our task, which is issue number 1. I'm gonna turn down the music so I can hear myself think. And for now, it's just going to be an int. And the reason for that is there's a bunch of different plumbing I have to do to facilitate actually specifying the output serial. And that output serial will be used for, that'll actually be used in the end by the time we get to this preview one for Budgie 11. I have one question about panel. Do you plan to make its applets into separate processes? No. We discussed that, and it's not likely to happen. Given what we want to be able to facilitate with individual extensions, which is our Budgie 11 terminology. Having them be their own process probably isn't going to work out. We might dabble with individual panels being their own process, but there's still some challenges even with that. So time will tell, but what I could say is it's probably not going to happen that each extension is going to be. That has its upsides, for sure, when it comes to resiliency, and especially if you have each one of them running their own nested compositor. But, of course, it has a lot of downsides. But what I will be working on with relation to this KConfig integration is being able to define the screen edge. So we actually already have a screen edge enum, which Evan has set up as part of his quote-unquote classify panel work. And I did some tweaks with relation to like libifying that. So what that means is making a public library called lib-budgie-shell, which has our QML loader class, and that'll be able to be used if we need to for loading in QML files in separate like extensions, as an example. So that'll be nice. I'm going to be working on the position, and also with relation to extensions, I have the idea of it'll be quite similar to what we have, at least at the moment. It'll be quite similar to what we have, which is like the start, center, and end regions. And that will be for defining what extensions are, like where they're located in terms of the region, and then their position within that queue string list, which technically is a queue list of UUIDs, but it all boils down to it's a string. But that position in that list then dictates its position on the panel in that region. And then we might have a locked mode. That depends. I know KConfig has some fancy stuff with relation to vendor-related shenanigans. So, yeah. I asked because I kind of like how Cosmic applets can be packaged as flat pack applications, which potentially could work in different panels. Yeah, that's certainly a model. Yeah. So we are going to be leveraging some of the work that we have done, or at least some of the learnings we have gotten from integrating of KConfig/KConfigXT into Magpie. Now, I might actually be able to fully leverage KConfigXT here, because as I was looking a little bit deeper, I had initially thought that the keybind related stuff that I had worked on that it may not have been viable to do like an arbitrary set of them, but I might be wrong about that. So we have our own sort of class that sits on top of our KConfig static class here. And to be fair, we do some extra logic here. Like we make sure that the Magpie RC file, that we point to the right thing, and that we set up a watcher because KConfig itself doesn't do that. Instead, I believe it relies on a dbus call to notify when there has been a change. And so I have a queue file system watcher here. See, also their applets aren't tied to it. Yeah, I'm not really interested personally in integration of Cosmic applets into Budgie, to be honest. Now, if they want to write the stuff in Qt in C++ and tie it into budgie-shell, then they're welcome to do so. But I don't think otherwise. I'm planning on any sort of other any particular support. So we have this static config with our focus method as well. So that actually comes from our static config here. And I could show what the config for that looks like. So we have a group here. The group is called window management. We have an entry called focus method, and that is to an enum. And that enum itself is dictated here, like the values of it, and then that gets extrapolated out to actually pull it up here. Where is it? Source. This KConfig we have here. You can see the enum focus method. So I will probably do something similar at the very least, but I need to double check the documentation for using existing enums. There is this introduction to KConfig as an example, which I just opened up here. And I believe this even has documentation on enum. Enum references to other files which are, I think, part of the import. Let's see. Now, in case you need to import a C++ header to, well, okay, that's to compute a default value. You have an include tag, which contains the header file that is needed. So it sounds like we may just want to wholesale move that screen edge enum to our config, which I don't think is really a problem. Now, of course, we have it here in libshell, which isn't ideal. I mean, like, for our current model, it's fine, but I'm just thinking of it in the context of the config, because the config I was thinking about putting directly into, I guess it would be top level, really. I don't know if Evan would have any particular preference on that. I could have it in libshell and then just have it be part of the private. That would work. And then I could have the enums here, as well as the config. And then our libshell is what would be consumed, like the private version would be consumed by the panel view. And I guess there we would, yeah, I mean, we would have a similar class, I guess, to what we have here for like this base window. So we would say, you know, that our panel view has its own KConfigXT. It has its own class. And the reason for that is, and I don't think we don't define a magical UID that this thing has. Because, well, we're only launching one at the moment. So we could just probably hard code a value, right? Somewhere for now. which is terrible, but in lieu of like having the ability to just auto fire them off, which isn't in scope for at least this stream. I think we'll just set a define UUID. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, we're gonna go a queue property. We're gonna have a queue UUID. I think it's just UUID like this, and we'll call it UUID read, and it will be UUID. The UUID is not going to change, so this is just going to be a read only, because I expect that when we go to create a new panel, we will create a new panel view, and we'll have already calculated its UUID. So we're going to do queue UUID. It's going to be UUID. And let's go ahead and have a function here, queue invocable. We're going to take a queue UUID. UUID. Const. The property has constant. Oh, yeah, let's see. Guess they communicate that it's not, yeah, okay. The presence of a constant attribute indicates the property is constant. Yep, that makes sense. For a given object instance, the read method of a constant must return the same value every single time it's called. That's what we do anyways, because it's a constant, constant func. Maybe different for different instances. Cannot have a write or a notify. Well, that, yeah, so we're effectively what we're doing already. Great. That works out. So that returns that, and then we are going to have a QUID down here, QUID. But no, like this, thank you. And it's gonna be MUID. Like that. Incomplete, yeah, it does not know what that is. We're gonna include QUID up here. And now it knows what one is. So when we do that, this is suddenly like, oh my god, we have no idea what this is. And I am gonna do the terrible thing. UUID. Let's see, which I'm gonna assume the QUID is a v4, but I want to double check before I fire up a UUID generator. So we have a, yeah, I mean, of course it could be a bunch of different types, but what's the default? On Windows, GUID, V3, V3, V5. Let's see. V4. I'm going to assume the default's V4. If it's not, well, I'll find out. Strongly comparable to a GUID. All right. So we can do it from string. All right. So the UID v4 generator. Surely CatG can pull up one. There we go. Perfect. I'm gonna do our UUID terrible UUID fixed string is equal to this. Let's just make this a Q literal string, or Q string literal. Let's go ahead and include Q string. Q string. Let's see. It will undeclared. No, I'm pretty sure we pulled it in here. Okay, ignore that for now. And then we are going to do auto UUID equals just what? UUID from string, Q UUID equals string. And it's going to be a terrible UUID, like so. And we are gonna pass in UID here. So we can actually put this all back on the line. And the reason why I'm gonna do it as a fixed string is so that way when I'm doing like the pathing, I can predictably know during testing what the UID is gonna be, and like manually write the file out if I need to and mangle it to do testing. But if the UID is constantly changing because we're creating a new panel view every single time we're launching, and therefore a new UID, that's not really going to help me. But this is to do. Gosh. Oh, I immediately have to fix that as well. For the app screen 0, nope, it's gonna be for Evan it's 1, for me it's 0. But that's okay, because as part of today's work, we'll have it at least be something where you could specify the target screen. Eventually, we will have a process in budgie-shell that creates a panel. But for testing, KConfig stuff, this is really nice. So we'll do that, right? And that is that. Of course, it's going to complain about the fact that we no longer have CQ UID here. And we're going to do MUID of UID. And we need to implement the actual UID. QUID. Here, panel view UID const is just a return of MUID. So that will get that squared away. And then we need to actually start implementing our class. I'll probably the config for panel. So I'm going to put in here panel. I mean, it's probably not the best place, but we'll move it. We'll move it when we're happier with it. So we are gonna want to just copy all this stuff, and let's implement. In here, we're gonna have a new file called panel.kcfg and do kcfg. This is like, oh my god, I don't know what file type this is. It's an XML, which is somehow not. All right, Z somehow doesn't have that extensions. XML. This should really be a default grammar, but all right. There we go. And we are gonna want a group name. If I check, he's gonna drive me up the wall if I don't have it like this. All right. So we're gonna want a group name of appearance, like so. And we are going to want entries. So the first entry is going to be an auto hide enum. So let's start working that out. And I'm actually going to pull up this other Z here. And I'm going to throw my CFG on the other side. Okay, CFG. Like here. That way I don't have, when I want to reference the syntax, because it's not like I have it memorized yet. For the enums, I could reference it. So it's entry, we're going to have a name of auto hide. It's going to be a type of the enum. Entry. And we're going to have choices, as well as a label. So the label is panel, let's see, automatic hiding behavior for the panel. Choices. And then within that, we have a choice, which has a value, but the value is actually called a property name, and then the label. So name. Our first one is going to be none as 0. Like so. Label. All right. And it's going to be no automatic hiding. Choice. Oh. When I believe I called it dodge instead of our current thing, which is called intelligent. Dodge. Not that I really particularly care what it's called, but you know. Dodge will have the panel automatically hide and intersected by a window, or if a given window is maximized / full screen. Something like that, you know? And then we're gonna have choice name is automatic, which that's probably the less ideal name for that, but label. Oh. Did I end that? I didn't. Got to close that off. There we go. Typically why I do it immediately. We're gonna have automatic. Automatic will hide the panel when a given window is maximized or full screen. Like so. All right. And then the next thing is going to be dock mode, which is going to be a Boolean entry. I want to check what they're using as. Is it literally called bool? Like, what are they doing for the naming? Int list. I mean, a bool is just literally an int, a 0 and a 1, you know? So there isn't really. Oh, there is an actual supported bool type. Okay. So I guess it would be probably something like this. Name is dock mode, a type of bool, and I'm guessing it's gonna be I forgot the default. We're gonna do 0, so I'm gonna guess we just set a default, and then that's fine. Default. Then the question is a case like this, or does it have to be uppercase F? Do dock mode, and then we're gonna do size, which is gonna be an int. I feel like this should be a range, which might mean the code value, because I don't think we can do a range. I mean, that's a computed one, but of course we could handle it on the parsing side, like if it's above a certain limit. Because we probably don't want to make it where you could set it to true or false. Yeah. Does it need to be wrapped in single quotes for that? Or is that double? The kerning on the font that's being used by default. Min and max? Oh, okay. That's good. That's good to know. Thank you. No quotes. All right, cool. Let's see if there is. Yeah, so default. So you'd set an int. Yeah, we'll do entry name is a size. And it will be a type int. Like so. And I'm gonna set a min of, I don't know, we could do it like 12. Max, 128, because we're talking about like the actual Now, maybe people would want like a dock to be even larger than that. I don't know. I just figured I would have some boundary. And it also means like the UI for it, because the UI for it right now in like Budgie 10, if I go here and I go to settings, it's just a stepper, as you can see here. And I kind of want it to be a slider. Now, of course, in the slider, you could set a value, but I'd rather set the value on the config side, because I imagine that would probably generate code that does a floor see, like it clamps the value, is what I mean. We're going to set it to 256. Someone wants it to go that large, you know what? Why not? Your desktop, not mine. And we'll set that. Oh, it would help if I close this correctly. We have a size, and then the next thing is transparency, which is going to be a bool. I am feeling a bit lazy for this work, so we're going to just do this. Transparency. There we go. Whoa. Why does it want to do it like that? Let's see. Min max means the config setter will clamp the value exact. That's it. So that was like, I'm going to assume it's this because it's the sensible thing to do. And well, I'm not going to glaze the KDE people, but you know, in general, it seems like a lot of things, especially these consumable libraries like these that are quite public, have a lot of same defaults and a lot of sanity incorporated in them. I'm not saying it's ubiquitous, right? I'm sure underneath the hood it's insane, but from a consumer perspective, the behavior that you would expect is same. We have layout as well, so that's going to be a new group. Unfortunately, I don't think you get a min max encode for use in the config UI, which would be useful. Ah, right, yeah. Yeah, as opposed to like with the enums, but that's okay. That's going to be another tricky thing anyways, is what we do for that, which is why I might actually make this as part of the... I might make this part of the public API, now that I think about it. Because if we want to manipulate it out of process, which is literally the goal, then we need it to be manipulatable outside the process, which means you need to actually have an API for it. So we could have a program that links against it and has code written against it without duplicating all of that. And then we can have a centralized place where the config changes and then everything else can blow up and we just have to fix it there. And hopefully that would be caught in like CI. So you hard code in 2 places. Yeah. Yeah, probably okay. I mean, if it clamps it, then like, yeah, it's just up to the consumer in terms of the panel. The panel in the control center to have the clamp. And anywhere else, like, it's sort of outside our domain. If somebody wants to not set, like, use a stepper and have it to go to 512, they'll very quickly learn when they try to set it to 257 that it doesn't go up to 257. Not the biggest deal. We have layout, and then it will be the output, which will be the number. Layout, which right now will be a type int with a default of 0. Sorry, Evan, you'll have to change yours. And then the last one on that was position, which is the enum. So we are going to take this enum, all the values for that, and probably port it. The downside is it'll just give us this. It doesn't give us this logic for translation of that. I do wonder though if we could use an enum, because like with all the cute dbus stuff, right? You could basically say it's of this given output type, and so long as you pass what that is, it understands it in the header. Now, of course, we would have to make it public as well. The alternative is just write a function that converts the position to a layer shell. You know, like you just extract this, which also isn't terrible. I do want to double check real quick. So that's all the QML bits. Yeah. KConfig and generate default getters. It's just a blind spot. I did open a bug for it actually. Right. Parent group. Not quite what we're looking for. This would be just the code for the default. Oh yeah, min max. Here's what you're saying. Yeah, upper and lower. You could use a emit tag if you want to specify a signal to emit when the property changes. Oh, that would be handy actually. Wonder what that would look like. Let's see if there's an example emit. That's okay. Emit, label and tooltip. Let's see. IUQ, qint, enum, choices. Enum values are accessed as integers by the stored application, but stored as little strings. Yeah. I will make the enum value here, and we'll just have a function. I think that might be fine. Screen edge. Type is enum, and then we're gonna have choices. Well, we'll have a label, which is edge of the screen. Technically, it's not a screen though; it's an output. I feel like I'm just gonna call this edge. Should I call it screen edge? What do you guys think? Because if it was up to me, I would just say output edge. Edge of the output. Like, to me, it's that. Because all the vernacular related to screens is not screens, they're outputs. To display the panel on. The choice is yours. Choice name. We'll do bottom. Label. Panel is on. We'll do bottom edge of output. I feel like these are maybe a bit redundant. But that's okay. I probably don't even have to specify them. Probably just good practice. Alright, so we'll do this. Label. And it's going to be top edge of output. And we'll do choice name is left. Label, a left edge of output. And we're going to have right. Have all of that. All right. And then this will have to be moved, which is okay, into like a utils class or something. And then that would take the that would take the panel config enum type. But for now, we'll just keep it as this. They're not actually going to conflict yet because one is called output edge and the other is called screen edge. So I don't expect there to be any issues quite yet. So we have that and extensions. Technically goes above this. I kind of want it to be specified after. I don't know if the ordering will actually be parsed that way. I expect not. Group. I have an entry which is going to be named start region. I have a label of extensions and start region of the panel. I know I haven't specified a type. I'm going to do a queue. Oh, it's just called a string list. All right, so they just dropped the queue. Right. Makes sense to me. We're not going to have a default unless I have to specify one. We're just going to copy this twice. Start region, center region, end region. All right, so we have those, and that should be it. So we have all that logic. Now, if I take a look at what I did for the actual KConfig, there was a few things I needed to do in the CMake. The first thing was I needed to add a KConfig target. So let's do that. So in Magpie, I have it in Magpie lib. I am going to have it in lib budgie-shell here. So I specified that right after the library. But I actually think I'm going to set it after the set target properties here. But then the question is, because the CXX visibility is set to hidden, is it actually going to be exported? Because it's not going to be using the lib budgie-shell. Was it lib budgie-shell underscore export, I believe? If I double check the include CPP here. Yeah, lib budgie-shell underscore export. I suspect it won't. But let's take a look at the actual function for it, which for some reason when I do KConfig target CFG file, the first thing it wants to pull up is no, let's lower. Nothing against you, Rustlang. It's just here that wasn't relevant. And that's also still not providing me the same thing, but maybe the actual link to it will open up this way. So we have that. Just read it. Adds it to the target without having a config kcfgc file. Will be generated from the function arguments. Arguments correspond to the similarly named fields from the kcfg file. Or kcfgc file. Target. Let's see, multi-argument values are source include files. Oh, so maybe we wouldn't have had to specify. We're able to specify source include files. I wonder if that also means, oh, we could specify visibility here. If anyone in the chat knows a good way, for example, for me to leverage our lib budgie-shell export, which is defined by our generate export header, that would be nice. because it generates that to mark our symbols. So in this case, it would be our class as public. Now, maybe that visibility itself would be perfectly sufficient, right? I don't know. Let's see what it does. Set single argument on file. Okay. KCFG constructor, generate the mock, parent and constructor, generate property, global enums, item assessors, notifiers, custom additions. What the heck? Custom additions. This macro is definitely, it doesn't have the best documentation in terms of what these arguments actually do. Like I imagine these are the most frequent ones. That's why they're communicated, but. So this goes to what? Function KCFG target, or KConfig target KCFG file, sets underscore option, and then these options go to CMake parse argument. For each of them, convert them to camel case, and then if arg underscore blah, we append them. That's not what that would be. Well, let's see if this has any documentation on it. See variables inside. This way the code is generated is controlled via CMake call. For the full list of file options, see this documentation. Okay. Well, let's do that then. All right. So name is neither R, yada yada. I'll zoom in here. Inherits. Here we go. Aha. Oh yeah, so you do visibility and then the thing. Okay. Oh, this is the visibility directive I need. Perfect. Yep. Yeah, Olaf, I believe it or not, I found that on my own. I didn't look at chat, but yes, thank you for calling that out. I do appreciate it. So we're gonna do KConfig target KCFG. We're gonna do lib budgie-shell. I'm gonna specify the file, but before I do anything, I'm gonna do this visibility, which is visibility. All right, because this just generates the actual file itself. So yeah, it's visibility, right? Yes, visibility. So we would do visibility. I'm not sure I said that word enough times, and lib budgie-shell. Let's put like so. All right, that should do the trick. I guess we'll find out. Do file, which is going to be the CMake source dir. Could also be the current. Might be CMake current source dir. I wonder in practice, are they the same? And we're gonna do. Oh, I don't like this being. I have to rename it. I have to rename it to data. I have to panel dot KCFG. Right. And what I'm actually gonna do, because I have been documenting, I have been trying to document the hell out of this. As you can see, check this for options. They are the KCFGC equivalent. I don't even equivalent. Fucking English, man. equivalents to this. Technically, the macros of blah are KCFG equivalents to the KConfig compiler. Something like that, you know. That way, when I look at it in 12 months' time, I'll know where to go. Last name is panel config. You could always change that later. Header extension, HPP. Mutators, I believe, was. Let me look it up here. If true mutator functions of all configuration options are generated, which I do want. Mutators and then default value. This is just me referencing. Like a lot of these default options I actually got from up here in the actual CMake call that's in the document. So that is why, if you're wondering the logic for that, it's because that's what was documented. We have those. And then that should generate the respective files for that into Magpie lib. Be interesting to see if that gets exported. Oh, easy to find out, right? Task setup. Cannot find, let's see, source libshell data. Wait, where did I go? I'm gonna resave this. And what the hell? So when I try to actually move it, it doesn't. What? Zed, what are you doing, Zed? Now what the hell happened here? Yeah. It's trying to do some sort of collapsing or some. I don't know what it's doing. It's so weird. Libshell. Data ls panel. Move panel. Flash that to data. Armdir panel. Task setup. Data panel. No, it could just be this. And we can delete this. How do I refresh the? What the? Refresh. Reload. Does work? I'll just reload the workspace. Alright, well, that worked, so whatever. Close. Alright. Hold on. Oh, it's just technical difficulties here. At least that restores, but Zed. I'm gonna do this because I don't want to leak any keys. Zed, we're gonna do when closing, no tabs. Let's see. Close. No tabs. Keep window open. And then I am actually gonna do. Okay. I'm not gonna off my settings at this point. Key map. And open up the key map here. We're gonna do Control plus Q. Control. Quit. Z quit. I am actually going to delete that. It's too close to Control W for my liking. All right. Task setup. have all that. Oh, but of course we don't have actual KConfig whatsoever in our CMake. Grab that. KConfig. Which, funnily enough, looking at this, do I have it here as well? Oh, because it's just find package KF6 config, right? So we are going to in our root CMake. We have our find package KF6. Oh, config's already added. I wonder if I did that. I don't know. Doesn't matter, I suppose. But have that, and then I need to check the linking. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. So our lib budgie-shell is going to then pull in these two things. I actually don't think it needs to pull in KF6 config GUI. I'm gonna rip that out for now. But that might be used for, what did I pull it in for? I had a reason. I have to look it up. KConfig GUI. It might have been KConfig loader or skeleton or something that I need to pull it in for. I'll just pull it in anyways. It's a GUI thing, right? Like it's a library for a shell. So who cares? Let's do that. Task build. Yeah, so that's it. It does not like the constant. Let's see, panel config. Did you mean K shared config? And libshell panel.cpp. Okay. Last lib budgie shell export panel config : see, expected initializer, not a type. That's what I did here, right? Yeah, class that and the class name. Let's see, can we look up? Yeah, okay. So variable has incomplete class on that. Yeah, that is because I'm not including I need to do that include as well. So it provides that. That's why, because it's like, I don't know what this macro is, so that's probably the name, right? It doesn't know any better. It is C++ after all. Just name it all you want. Anything you want. Sky's the limit. So this is going to be, I remember seeing one for include. Source includes probably. We'll check the doc. Because I do like to RTFM, believe it or not. Name of files to be included in the source file of the generated class. Enclose a file name in escaped double quotes to generate the include instead of #include that. I need to do include files anyways. Enclose a file name in escaped double quotes to generate. I see, right. I see what they mean. Okay. Right. Because otherwise it would default to, well, I mean, we'll give it a shot anyways. I think I know what they mean. So if we go up here, this is probably going to be include files, all caps. All caps, no cap. Include. What is this crap? Include files. We just double check this. This one. No. Header extension. Yeah, include files. So in theory, it should be this. And because I'm not escaping it, it should wrap it in the brackets. Of course, it would help if I had the right thing open. So maybe I'll get that on the second screen, and I'll get this one on the main one. Let's see. So we need to do it here. I mean, the position literally in here doesn't matter, but I just mean in that function. That's brutal. All right, that's more like it. Yeah. Yeah, we cooked it. All right, good. All right, let's see what that actually generated. Do I still have it up? I don't, but that's okay. It's what libshell and where was it? Because it was complaining about it earlier. Probably just scroll up in the buffer here. So now this is a CPP file, which does not help. So it's build source libshell. All right, I'm gonna open this up side by side if I can find the header here. Here it is. All right, yep, so it includes that as I would like it to. We have a class, which is enum auto hide, enum output edge. I don't like them actually being called enum blah though. Can I rename those? Although, would that conflict with something? Yeah, because we have auto hide. Does auto hide capitalized somewhere? No. All right. Global enums. Can I set the name? Let's look up. Let's click there. Check if there's an option here for it. Enum. Global enum. Use enum types. So use enum types if set to true. All enum types whose enums are named will use enum types for the return value. Yeah. Global enums will be creating global scope. Nope, that's not what I want. Enumeration. Type enum. Global enum set to false. A separate named enum will be generated for each enum type. Yup. That's what I would expect. Type enum. Choice prefix keep underscore. Do don't will generate enum keep underscore do keep underscore don't. Ah, right. So the enum then would it not actually have types? Prefix. Also possible to specify external choices. Wait, hold on. Is also possible to specify the use of enums external to the generated class by specifying the string. Right, okay. In the enum name, just ensure that it's sufficiently qualified to be unambiguous in use. To specify use of an unnamed enum, append a trailing : : For example, to use an enum, my enum defined in class A, use either class A : my enum or that one. To specify an unnamed enum in the namespace, use this. To specify a top level unnamed one, do : . So that way we aren't okay. So we then don't have to define the choices, duplicating therefore the screen edge, because we should be able to then, in our data here, use screen edge itself, and as a result, have that queue invocable. At least, that would be my expectation. So, let's give that a shot. So I expect it would be screen edge : edge. We could try. So it was choices. Choices name. If I rip out all this. Choices name. Try something like that. And I suspect I would, of course, screen edge isn't exported. So that would need to be part of, which I mean, that's fine. I get that could be exported, but you know. But what we would want to do is move it into here, probably. And then we would want to have a lib do this. Let's do this. Lib shell, and then pull this in here, which will give our export. Like so. Let's save that so it shuffles that around. And then we will move screen edge into here. We will delete this enums. And in our CMake, where we specify this, we are going to move it up to here. We're actually going to copy pasta this and then do screen edge.hpp and then delete this line. Control. All right, so that'll be then part of our public headers, which will be good because it would be a little problematic if we were exporting this in our public headers, but then proceeding to have screen edge itself in our private library. That would probably fall on its face very quickly, I would expect. So that will square that away, but we likely need to include it in the actual CMake as part of, I guess, include files. Can we specify it multiple times like this? Or is it just multiple like string arguments? I guess we'll find out. Include files. And this is going to be budgie-shell slash screen edge.hpp, I would expect. Let's find out. Now the question is, do you still specify the default here? Like so. Default of 0. Default. Of course, we need to change its edge, so bottom is the first one. So bottom is 0, not top. That's not good. Let's see. Task build. It's undefined reference to yes, because there's the layer shell stuff. We need to make sure that our lib links to this. So funnily enough, our lib budgie shell private, what does it even link to? Oh, Q quick stuff. So that actually, I mean, that needs to be fixed for our private one. So I'm going to copy this over. This will be our new public Q core GUI, QML quick is all legit. This needs to be moved up here. It might actually be a public one. Let's find out. All right, so it's having issues. Oh, that's panel view. Ah, okay. That's not a big deal then. Because this would actually be budgie shell slash screen edge, like so. And then these, obviously the reference itself, I think would need to be the budgie shell. Or do I just call it budgie shell? Budgie shell. Well, I might not actually call it anything. Let's have this under the namespace. Budgie shell, like so. And let's rebuild that. And this probably then needs to be under the namespace, budgie shell, screen edge or something. Maybe that edge part is redundant, but we'll find out. It's going to complain about panel view, the enum screen edge thing, which is in this, which it doesn't actually need to be. As we pull it in, up a level in panel view, and then these budgie shell, Q invocable, let's see, is this budgie shell, screen edge, and then that maps down here to budgie shell, screen edge. We have that. Is there any other issues? It might just be flagging deletions. Unexpected blah. Oh, what's that? Yes, budgie shell. Why does it keep doing that? Am I doing that? I don't think I am. That's fine. And then let's go ahead. I'm gonna lose my mind if I have to do this again. So we're gonna do a copy into that, and we're gonna do budgie shell : this, like so. And then wherever we have screen edge itself, I'm gonna do this. Oh, I should have done that before. You know, let me revert that. Screen edge. That should fix it. And then this need oh shit. Budgie m screen edge. It was not cased properly, which means down here it's all messed up. M screen edge. We have that, and the mock might be fixed when I run this. Having issues. Whoa. Whoa. CPP M shell. Did I not just fix that? M budgie shell. No. All right. Let's see. M screen edge. Where's the next error? That, I guess. It's still, is it clear up at the top here? Referencing where? Mock panel view .cpp. Screen edge. TechR build. That's set up. Might be one of those things where it doesn't realize that cleared cache or something. Still in the... What was that? I mean, I saw that one error here, but is there another instance of it? But like, what is this complaining about the next diagnose? Is it in main? Ah, shit, it's in main. Yeah. God damn it, Bobby. It's gonna be this. And I'm gonna do budgie shell screen edge. Oh, it isn't me. Right. I wonder if that mock is even needed anymore. Screen edge. What is it? Meta object system stuff. Is that maybe that's why he had it here as well? Let's include it in both places. What the hell? The feeling it's still yelling about that. Why? Did you mean budgie-shell? Yes. Let's try just deleting this. Am I missing something? Oh, I bet it is not related to mock at all, but I bet it's related to the CMake here. We have lib budgie-shell here. Where we have main and panel view. But are we actually... What does this not... Does the private not link against... lib budgie-shell itself? No. Include link. Oh, no, it does. All its dependencies to consumers. Yeah. I literally wrote this last night. I was like, I'm pretty sure. Okay. The whole mock stuff is real pain in the butt, I have to say. So, it... What is it? The panel view HPP. Screen edge, colon edge. On what? View properties, UID edge orientation. So if I look up edge here, aha, yes. I was looking at that, I'm like, let me look at the mock because there's something weird going on with the references to shell. It must be still defined somewhere. It's interesting that the Q property thing never, like, I guess it's just the point of the C++. There we go. Compiler warnings is they are quite opaque. But hey, I have struggled with that before, and it took me a lot longer before to figure that out. So my brain is learning and remembering. We're teaching the panel to remember, and we're teaching Josh to remember as well. And yes, I just referred to myself in third person. I also consider it weird. So this probably isn't going to do anything, which is fine. I want to check the... No, we're going to actually task install. So that included our screen edge HPP, QML, and not the header for... Interesting. For config. So we have, we need to be able to reference whatever the output of this is. So, are these private ones? Should be defined, I would say, after, but whatever. A target include directories. Automock can locate it. Let's include budgie-shell. Got that. Our public one, yeah, so the in tree, that's fine. Consumers need to be able to find this at build time, which it can. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to build the config itself. So, not a link. It's gotta be part of these public headers, right? If I look here, file set public headers. Let's see. Let's double check the actual macro. Which is faster if I just grab it from here again. Yes. Here. Like, let's check build source libshell. We have that. Autogen HPP here, which is for the no, it is paneled HPP here. I don't want the file to be called that, so let's change that. But that doesn't really solve our root problem, which is it doesn't get exported. Mutators, yeah, we want to check this. Check this up. And let's tile these as well. Them up here. All right, so go all the way up. File name of the KCFG, yes. Header extension, well, we already do as HPP. Namespace for the generated class. Actually, we would want that to be budgie-shell. Namespace. Namespace. Budgie-shell. Visibility singleton. No, we wouldn't want it to be a singleton, because we need the config to apply to multiple panels across multiple displays. Mutators, notifiers, global enums. Force string file name. Force is the first parameter of the generated class to be a Q string. I'm curious why is it called panel because I called this panel. So I would almost need to call this like panel config. Let's do that, panel config. We do file, class name. It generated the class name as panel config. That was correct. As we could see here. It does need to be within the namespace, but we'll get that fixed. Next time we build this. Actually, you know what? We could just do it now. Test setup and task build. Let's see. Complaining about... it's because I renamed the file. Which might not even be necessary, but just... This file should be outdated, but it's not. I gave it a namespace. What the hell? Re-add it? No? Try this again. Then, if I drag it back in. Aha! Yes. There we go. Okay. So at the very least it's there, but if I install... Yeah, it's not including it. I mean, it makes sense because it's not in the file list, but I'm just trying to think of how I would want to dictate that. We do include here. I guess it would be the CMake build, current builder, current build or binary dir. What have I used before? Current binary dir, no, build interface, binary dir, install interface, current binary. There's a full path to the build directory that is currently being processed by CMake. Each subdirectory added by add subdirectory will create a binary directory in that build tree. So it would be this slash, it might just be panel config HPP. Maybe. And then this PPP. It did not. It did not like that. Not one bit. So it's trying to find it in source. Must be in one of the file's base directories. libshell include. Ah, basters, right. So if I do this, does that work? It didn't yell at me immediately. That work? Oh, fuck. What did it put there? Come on. Oh man, now I have a panel config HPP polluting my. I'm glad that I didn't name it something generic and just blow away a random header file somewhere. User include. Let's do that now though before we get ourselves into trouble. So yeah, that's probably why we have it in the. And that include dir. But we need to specify, I guess, probably some sort of output directory for this if we can. Can we have that somewhere? Singleton file, that's just the actual file. Include mutators, notifiers, generate. Parent and constructor, no, not quite what I'm looking for. All right. Well. Target, private, public headers. Because these public headers then get shoved directly into this target file sec here. Destination as the include dir. Now I suppose what I could do is where is it? All right, just rip this out, right? Like, it doesn't have to be here. I think I could just have it be. What, in a different file set, maybe? Let's look up the files of documentation. So we're gonna re-add it back for now. So this is gonna be under target sources. Whoa, guys, I forgot that is light mode. Whew. My eyes. The name of the file set to create or add to. It must contain only letters. Yeah, that's fine. Base directories. Any relative path is treated as relative. So we add our builders so that we're able to reference that. Yeah. Can we specify? So optional list of files. Each file must be in one of the base directories. Yes. Or a subdirectory. They're considered relative. Target include directory. I refuse to believe there isn't some sort of target. Details, singleton. Like, that seems a little crazy to me. So I imagine it's probably just done through a different CMake macro, if I have to be honest. If anyone has any ideas, it would certainly be welcome. Include budgie-shell. So if I look here, we have this. Now, could I... No, I don't want to do that. I didn't think it would fix. I was just thinking moving panel config into the thing, but I feel like it would put it into this, the budgie-shell. File, header extension, output. Base name is the same as the KCFG file. Yep, that is fine. Target? Nope, not target. Where are we stuck? So the current issue is our panel config.hpp here is being included, or it's being installed in user include as opposed to where we want it, which is user include budgie-shell. And the reason for that is because I've specified a base dir of the CMake current binary dir, so that way when we're building the panel config, we are able to actually reference it because, you know, it's only in the build directory. It's not like it's in our source directory here where we have our nice structure for include budgie-shell. So I have it part of this public file set as a target source here. Now I'd also consider maybe just having it be part of the install down here as an install target, where we have all of our like budgie-shell targets, and we have our file set here, just having another install call where we say, all right, well, this one is going to be just like slash, you know, budgie-shell, and specify the panel config. That would probably be the easiest thing to do. I'm just kind of surprised that I don't have the means of telling the macro to point these panel config HPP and CPP files into our budgie-shell directory directly. If that makes any sense. Like the CPP, I guess, is fine as it is, like fine where it is, but it's the other one that's a bit of a problem. Like this is fine, I think. but it's just the adding of it to the base set. I feel like if I do this, I wonder if it would be like problematic. Targets, lib budgie-shell. Extras. I think that's what we'll call export. Budgie-shell extra targets library. No, it'd be file set. File set of. Actually, we could just specify files, can't we? Do files. This. So we specify our HPP, I guess. Just throw it into destination. CMake install. Just do this. Because that's what we do for our export as well. And it seems to work out fine. I was just hoping to not have to do that. What that does mean, I think, is... Oh, wait, no, we actually include the current binary dir, don't we? Or current source dir, which ends up being that fine, I think. So we might not be stuck after all. Sudo ninja install. So now we should see a panel config.hpp there. I suppose changes would be accepted. I have no expert on libraries you make, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfectly reasonable solution as well to write 3 lines of CMake to install it somewhere else manually. But, you know, if I could just instead write 1 line of like if it could just be like target, like target header, right? Because I don't even need to, I don't care about the other thing of just having it be like include budgie-shell, then bam, like that would solve it immediately. Because then I could just reference it down here. But no, that's okay though. It's installed there. So now if I open up that file, it's the same file, which we're not surprised by. This is QObject not found. KConfig skelly boy. It's not liking that. Expected that. That makes sense. But that is actually expected class name. I mean, you have it here. It's literally right here. I feel like it's throwing a fit. QObject not found. Is QObject here? Yes. QObject file not found. I wonder if this is just... I wonder if this is actually an issue. I'm not convinced it actually is. And I will remain unconvinced of it being an actual issue until I encounter it being an actual issue. So we have that config. So that's great. And this is based off KConfig skeleton. So now if I pull up my other thing, we can see what I did here is if I increase this a little bit, go up to our CMake, not our CMake, we go up to our config here. We have our own config object, and there's probably a terrible way of doing this, but it's the way that worked for me. So we have our K shared config, and we open that up. So we open up a config where we specify budgie-desktop/Magpie RC. So for us, it would be budgie-desktop/panels. I would probably panels uuid.rc maybe. Just by a UID. Or we have it as UUID / and then panel RC. That might be a little bit better. Might do it that way. And then we specify as a full config, so that way it loads it from all the hierarchies. And then what I did was I generated a KCFG, which is, this is my naming for it here. I'm not sure what I would call it in the context of, like right now I have a panel config, which I think is fine. I could have called it like panel KCFG or something. Set as a shared config, and then I have like a watcher that I have set up. So I set up a KConfig watcher in case we need to support that. But in reality, the thing we actually end up using is the Q file one. So we do that, and then we have this refresh keybinds. This handles our logic for iterating over all of our keybinds, because the entries in the group can be arbitrary. Because I don't know if I can, I still don't know if I could actually do that with KConfigXT, of just specifying a given schema type and saying, hey, this group has entries of this given type, and to make sure to parse it out that way. Because if that was the case, then I would be able to rip out, well, okay, actually I wouldn't be able to rip out much of this, to be honest. But I would be able to have something that is able to convert a config keybind into a keybind. But that's in the context of Magpie. So what we are probably going to want to do is, we have our panel view. I'm just debating now if we want to keep, I don't think in libshell, I don't think the logic actually belongs here for our config, in the sense that we don't need to read and write and have a Q file watcher and all that be exposed through a public library. There isn't really a value to that. You can maybe make the argument about the paths, right? Because you still need to figure out how you load them all. But we have to figure that out anyways. I don't know how we're going to do that. Across that bridge when we get to it. So I'm thinking what we do for now is we have a new source directory called panel. Right now we have panel view in there, and we will have a config. I will namespace this as budgie-shell panel, and then rename this class to view. So that way we don't have panel and then panel view. Do that, and then we'll have panel config, and then that will dictate, like we'll start porting over our config. That's my current line of thinking. And then we tie it up into the view. But I think that's what we're gonna do. So there you go, source and a panel. Within panel, we're gonna move this, right, immediately. And it's gonna freak out because it's like, oh my god, you moved everything, where is everything? This is also like, I have no idea where everything is because it all moved. That's okay, we'll do panel / panel view. And we'll just call this actually panel. It's not gonna have an idea about any of this, so we're gonna panel view. Panel / this. And it may very well be that we have a CMake, another C, like a subdirectory here, like we do with libshell. But for now, I am not going to. And my reasoning is because I don't feel like it. It has not become a problem yet, and therefore I only do it when it becomes a problem. So we have this, and that should realize quite quickly that it's a thing, but it doesn't. That's all right. And we're going to have a config.hpp. So if I look at what I did, we have, let's see, actually what I'll do is I'll close all this, put this off to the side and put this off to the side. And we will close this, and we're going to close all this. All right, open up a config. Let's see. So we're going to split this. So we're going to have our config HPP and CP. Pragma once up here. We're going to have the file watcher queue object. We're going to pull all that in, right? And we're going to include budgie-shell / panel config HPP. I have our namespace, which is going to be budgie shell panel. And then within that, we're going to have our class, which is going to be a config, which is going to be a public queue object. It does make me wonder if I could just inherit from this. Because then I would get all these different functions for free, effectively. For now, I'm not going to, but I'm going to keep that one in the back of my head. Actually, I even let's try Strobl. Making config a child of panel to budgie-shell : panel config. And 2 colons there. All right. So we have that. I'm going to specify it being a queue object. We're going to specify our queue property. And this is going to be a k shared config. Actually, I don't even know. I guess I do need the shared config because that's the thing that's actually going to be doing the reading. We need the property for the QUID. And this is going to be a read from UID. And it's going to be a constant. And I'm actually going to panel UID. Yeah, I'm going to call it panel UID. It's like, do I really want to? So we have that. We have a k shared config pointer. I don't actually know if I need to make that queue property. I don't think I do. I'm going to keep that hidden for now. Tucked away. We have our actual pointer to the budgie-shell, panel config read, panel config. This is KConfig skeleton not found. Maybe we have an issue with our CMake here. Because it may be that private KConfig these need to be public interfaces, or publicly linked. Because I guess because it's publicly exposed, it might need to be, right? I will admit that it's something I'm not particularly knowledgeable on, but that would be my educated assumption anyways. I would do a task setup and a task build. It has failed. The mock. Yeah, well, I mean, that's because I haven't finished up writing all that. Yeah. Maybe doing stuff in flight is not the best idea. Budgie-shell. And that is of the... It's actually complaining about the view here. This panel do name space budgie-shell panel. And we're gonna call this view. I'm gonna rename this to view. I go all the way down here as well. There we go. And it's going to be confused because the implementation is not going to be really reflective of anything. Explicit. All declarations. What is it complaining about? Type specifier is required for all declarations. Oh, we specify that. We specify the edge. We specify that. We specify that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's correct. So I'm just going to ignore that for now. Namespace. Budgie shell panel. Like that. And then we're going to rename all instances of panel view to just view. I'm also going to cycle the music back to the beginning. There we go. All right. So it is out of line definition. Okay. It is not liking our explicit, I think. No, explicit's fine. Type specifier is required. What do you wanna tell me what you're complaining about then? Maybe not. That's build. ISO C++ forbids declaration of panel view. Ah, right, because I call it panel view, not view. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. That would do it, wouldn't it? Alright. So it is complaining about new panel view in main. Well, that makes sense because it is not called that anymore. It's called budgie-shell panel view. All right. Yeah, the task install. All right, and I pull up this. It's still complaining about KConfig skeleton. Okay. I mean, I'm also not convinced that's the right header for it, but you know, we'll see. It could just be Zed being a little silly. So let's get back to this and oh, I don't want to move that. Thank you. What I want to do is what's this? So we have a pointer to that, and then we need a public config, and this is going to be a UUID to the panel UID, and a Q object. Parent is equal to null pointer. I mean, it will actually have a parent, I think. Like the panel will be its parent. So in theory, I don't even need to pass the, I don't even need to pass this. I could just get it from the parent. I think I might do that. We have that. And we're gonna just set this to the default. Default destructor as no pointer there. Default. And then we have our config, which is gonna be a pointer to that. Budgie-shell on panel config. It's gonna be config const, because I don't expect that to change at all. We have a bunch of queue slots, but in reality, I think I am actually going to modify, before I get too ahead of myself, these, because there was the emit. So I want to take a look at that documentation. If I could find the window in question. Let's see. There we are. Ooh. So it is going to be this emit. Right. Notify signals. An entry can emit a signal when it gets changed. First of all, you must define a list of signals for the configuration class. The signal's name may be any legal identifier you wish. The argument tag allows you to specify arguments for the emitted signal. It supports all types as defined in the KConfigXT DTD. The argument value must specify the name without spaces of one of the entries defined in the KCFG file. So we have a signal here of just something has changed, and then you have one of like style changed with an argument to tell me, and you have style path and that. After defining the signals, you must tell which signal to emit for the entry. You'd have like style and emit style changed. So whenever the signal will be emitted whenever save is called. Right. Whenever save is called. So it's not whenever we reparse. Also listen to the generic config change signal from KConfig skeleton, yes, to notify your application about config changes. In that case, you may also want to call save in direct response. So if the config change, you call save, and then that save will emit then the events. I suppose that would be a way. I don't know if that would work, but I suppose if we're just listening to the generic config change, then but yeah, I guess we don't know what's changed. Also contain a label, which will be the documentation line in the generated file. Argument type, and it would be that. But does it, how does it determine that it's changed? Because if a different process has saved it, right? Like a completely different application, I get, my assumption would be that it maintains an internal representation. It knows when the file is changed. I call the reparse. It reparses the file. It determines, okay, you know, layout blah, layout property blah has changed. And then, well, I'm calling reparse, not save. So, yeah. Because I do want signals. Like, for example, size has changed, the panel position has changed, extension is changing, right? Because if you have a different process that's modifying the position and saving the file, you would then want to know based off like that file watcher. So you get a signal that, okay, the file has changed, at which point you reparse. Entry. I wish it need to pass generate mock. It detailed a little bit about the notify signals. Because it might be that I just have to maintain an internal representation, which I kind of want to avoid. Do that, and then we get the value. The value is different than we emit our signal. Well, we'll see how this works first. So our queue property. So our panel config. I also want queue property for basically all the properties themselves. So this would be it seems like such a bollock to redefine all these, so there's no way. Hold on, let me frickin' I have to look at the actual panel config HPP here, because it has the setters, it has the getters, whether or not it's immutable. Feel like I would be insane not to build on top of panel config here. Are these queue properties? They are not, but can we I remember there wasn't something about QML. There was in the documentation at least. QML. So on with change. Yeah. Is equal to config with. To expose your config to QML side of KCM, you make constant queue property. Yeah, so we have this already, which is the config itself. Of course, that's for KCM, not for just QML. Add the keyword generate properties. Aha. And register the config as a singleton. Oh, right. Okay, you register it at this point. So in when we're creating the panel view, we create our config and then we do the registration of config. And then at that point, okay. No, that seems fun. Let's see how that changes our CMake. And our CMake, our header after we do this. We go all the way up here. Generate properties. We do task setup and task build. It is not liking that. And libshell panel, vtable stuff. All right. Is that because it's expecting undefined reference vtable panel config, item changed? Define reference, start region change. Do we actually have to define all those ourselves? Let me take a look at the doc. Like the actual doc here. So it's probably properties. Generate properties. If set to true, a queue property will be generated for each member variable holding a configuration value, and the queue object macro will be added to it. You'll need to pass generate mock. Okay, and I assume the generate mock will actually do this. Let's see. Oh, task setup. Yeah, it would help if you remember to read the documentation fully and you add the thing it requests. So now if I go all the way up here, it didn't change. Let me close. Panel config. HPP. Ah, no, it's okay. It's down here. Output is output immutable. So we have all these queue properties now. So we don't have to define these ourselves. We don't have to handle the notifies ourselves. I'm curious about, they have these signals here. Do void signals. I guess our thing would implement that. Because I am not convinced. I don't know why I'm not convinced. Panel config CPP. If I go here, buffer. Oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. Who's that? All right, cool. Panel config here. So let's expand this out a little bit, shall we? KConfig compiler signaling item. Right. Case emit. Item changed. So it should actually handle the emit itself. We might not have to do anything. Which would be cool as hell. So let's see about maybe taking it into use as a parent. So if we do, where that goes up, config HPP, budgie-shell, config. So it's a queue property, takes all that in. Constructor, don't even need this either. It's just a queue object. The queue object would be the actual panel as the parent. I don't think we need this, but let me double check. I think it was like at least the case. I don't know if we're gonna use KCL, but let's just sanity check the doc. So it's just self. Okay. So let's just rip out all this for now. We'll have our constructor, and with that will have our logic for, we will get the UID. Let's get this. We need a function here. That Q invocable we have. All right, so we get it from there. We then pass that into our config. Oh, too many files there. Just keep it like this. If you can't tell, I am scatterbrained today. So, I guess we still need a reference to our. I think we still might need this though. Config changed. I don't even know if we need that. I don't even think we need that as a queue property. I think we could just have as a private. Yeah. Do private here, and it will be a K shared config pointer. We're gonna have the KConfig watcher itself. I don't believe was useful. I think that was just like you had to notify something over dbus. So I'm just gonna do a Q shared pointer to a Q file system monitor or watcher, I guess. And we will have a config watcher, file watcher. And that might be it. The implementation on this might be a bit simpler. He says, and it's probably going to be frickin' hella complicated. Alright. What is it complaining about? Nothing. Alright. Alright, do namespace, budgie-shell. And before anyone's like, Josh, you could use using namespace, like name or something. I know. I'm not a fan of it. I don't know why. I think it's just, I like the explicitness. But, yeah. The way it is. QObject parent. I mean, we know what the parent is going to be. You know? Like, do we even need to pretend that it's the... We'll do it anyways. QObject. Even need to pretend that it's this. Because the actual panel itself is a QObject. Surely I could just do this as budgie-shell, budgie-shell panel view. Like, I know this is complaining about out of name view and namespace. If I include, of course they're including them each other, but whatever. And that's gonna be like, oh, it's just, that's not the right way to define it, Josh. Everything I know. Got a view here. So that pulls that in, so we could rip it out from here. Save that, and then this should be correct now. QObject parent. Type QObject is not a direct or virtual base of parent of that. But it's a base window. But is base windows a Q quick object, which itself is a Q object. You know? Not base or let's see, playing not direct base of virtual. I feel like that should work. Let's see. Can I just copy that? QObject. Base. Indirect base. Yes. You can't call QObject base constructor. It doesn't matter about type of parent parameter. Call of QObject parent. You call in this base item for set parent in the constructor body. Or overload it with QObject constructor. Oh, so is it saying that you can't do this, but you have to do this set parent, and then that would be parent? Ah, okay. That's interesting. Thanks, Stack Overflow. Set parent is literally the function for, yeah, okay. That works out. And then we need to create our config. So this is going to be mconfig is equal to, we kind of actually need to generate the path here. So we're going to do we have writable location. Joined by separator, which I'm still not gonna be, I'm still not convinced that's the right way of doing it. I feel like it should be something that's probably like a queue path thing. But we're gonna do auto of panel config path, and this is going to be a queue string. So the way I did it here was a queue string list, and it's gonna be budgie desktop, and it's gonna be the parent, if I could type, parent UID, and then we're gonna have panel RC dot join by qdir ::separator sep Rachel. Like so. Need to pull in qdir here, and also include after that queue string list. So it is blah blah blah. We just did it like this. That was fine. Then we did a join. So why is it complaining about it like this? No matching instructor. Did I pull in the right thing? Pretty sure I pulled in the right thing. Tutor UID. Oh, right. ToString. And we need to have this be, do we need to specify the for? So with braces, no, I don't want that to be. QUID : without braces is what we want. So this is then, this needs to be Q. I shouldn't actually need to define this as a Q string literal, but I'll do it and see if it makes it happy. Q string literal, like that. All right, interesting. It's not yelling about. I guess I have less strict stuff in Magpie. So that should get us like budgie-desktop-UID/panel RC. And then we would want the actual full path to include that config location. But that's sort of handled by this mconfig. But we need it for the file watcher. So we're going to do this. We're going to have that. And it's going to be mconfig as a case shared config. And we're going to open the config, which is going to be our panel config path. And we're going to say that this is a full config. And then we're going to immediately do a set shared on ourselves, which is going to be on mconfig. So we're saying this is our shared config. What that does in practice, I don't know, to be honest. Hopefully it's something useful, and hopefully some of the code I have in Magpie is completely redundant. But I do the full config path is equal to then a Q string list of. I can't be bothered to grab all this. We are literally just going to do it like this. And then panel that dot join qdir : separator. Oh wait, there is two native separators. I want to hold on. I mean, I guess that doesn't really help me because I have to join anyways. Set path, search paths. Because what I was hoping for with qdir is you'd have like an ability to pass a string list, and then it would just do that. But it's what it is. Because I don't think, yeah, that's just a q string. So separator. Something like that. That is our full config path. And now read the file. Auto file is equal to q file. And this is going to be our full config path. If the file exists, then we're going to create a watcher. So I am just going to copy all this because I can't be fucked. I'm going to do full config path. Alright, so at this point we have our file chain. Now we don't actually have a thing here for it. So let's actually add this Q signal. That's a Q slot. My Q signal. Always make those things up. Like so. And then I am actually going to yoink so that our config changes, we refresh the bindings. I don't think I actually need that. Unless we call it through that alternative mechanism, in which case maybe it's fine to like have a hooked up any, you know what, let's just do it. Config what? No. I don't expect us to do that yet. We have our refresh keybind, so what I expect is that our config here with our on config changed is, well, I mean, hopefully it's not overloading. I don't think it's overloading the other thing. I think it would have yelled at me about not having an override. So we have our m static config, which is actually this. So actually we just call it load. Load and then shared config reparse. At least that's what worked for me when I did that. And I think that will actually just fire off everything that we need. I'm not sure there's more that we have to do, but we will find out. So in our view, what we have to do is, it said the Q, was it singleton stuff? Singleton. Not there. Yes, QML register singleton instance. So it would be like org buddies of budgie shell panel.conf. I don't know. I could check what we've used. 10 config and config. Ah, right. So the versioning. And then that would be for plugging those in. Oh. Let's find out. After this message from our sponsor. No, I'm kidding. No sponsor. Except the Buddies of Budgie Open Collective, of course. I mean, they're not directly sponsoring this work, but they're supporting all work on Buddies of Budgie. So we want to get our UID, reset it. Do we have a reference in view to the config in question? We do not. So let's do that. Budgie-shell panel config and config. mconfig is equal to panel config config. This is wanting. It just doesn't know about. It's just this. But that should have that as a reference, and we just do this, right? Compatible. Assigning to budgie-shell panel. Con. Compatible type config. Yeah. I mean, do you want the entire thing? Budgie-shell panel? Or is it just this? So config. Now it's a pointer to it. Ah, okay. What we'll do is get a Q shared. That way it's ref counted. I don't have to worry about it. So we do this. Auto config is equal to new config. Let me just take a look at what I was doing in Magpie. The Q shared pointer thing. Yes, they have a create, which then just creates the pointer. No, it's down here. Yes, we create a new one. What we're doing. So this would be budgie-shell panel, but it is probably not liking the fact that we have a namespace of that's the same. Oh, what's wrong with this? Oh, because they're importing each other. Really not liking that. Config HPP included file no type named view. Which is from here. I mean, it's there. Budgie-shell panel. And here we have the view, where we then have a reference to the config. Namespace config. And then in config, it complains about this. Are we missing in our CMake? Maybe. Panel/config.cpp panel config.gp. Would that do it? Oh, save file. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do a test setup. Let's build. Yeah, something starts happening. I mean, I expect errors, but config 219. It is complaining about u.hpp line 19, which are a config, and there are config on line 17, which is complaining about this. Expected token. Do I just need to reference this view? But then it doesn't know what that is. I feel like I need a forward declaration of both of these. I think that's what I need. In fact, that's what I'm gonna do. class config. And then in this we'll do class. And then this is like, I don't know what this is. Allocation of incomplete type. Because now it's including that. Include you. Config like a type. All right, so now that is actually fine. And it's not freaking out. We do mconfig is equal to q shared pointer to config. Oh, it needs to be budgie-shell panel config. Like so. So we create our shared pointer to that, and then we need to do the QML thing, but I want to make sure that I'm not setting that too early. So we connect, we set our root context here. Panel. So what is in our panel.qml? We are not naming this anything in particular, and QML. We're not even doing a singleton thing here. So I guess I will be the trendsetter by grabbing this code. Maybe like this. Go to org buddies budgie.shell.panel config, and that is going to be our config, which actually I feel like it should be mconfig. No, it actually literally needs to be config. Okay. Well, I guess that whatever. Maybe it's not a problem. Who knows? So in our panel.qml then, we have all these various read write properties. That's by panel width and height. And that is dictated where? Int view. So we set panel orientations. These are almost certainly then exposed as what, Q properties? Yes. So these widths and height in fact would need to come from, well, I don't even think this needs to be a thing. Oh, actually no, in doc mode. Maybe in doc mode we would want both of the dimensions, but I feel like size would just be the thing. I'm gonna comment these out for now. And I'm just gonna do Q property. Oh, right, but he had mentioned. All right, what is he actually setting? If you in the default, that there wasn't a default version. Yeah, so he's doing geometry for. Okay. So we still need both. I got it. All right. Orientation. That's not gonna be orientation anymore. That's gonna be the screen edge, I would expect, because the screen edge dictates the orientation. He might already be doing that. Orientation and orientation is vertical. Then that. Yes, so if our orientation is vertical, then the vertical width needs to be the config. I don't know if I actually even need to set it that way, but you know what, we'll do it as config. It will be size. Because it might be that we don't actually need to do that QML singleton stuff. So we do that. All right. Maybe we stick with that for now. and see if we could get see if we get any of this running. Because we've written a lot of code. Oh, okay, we've written some code, but we haven't actually, you know, tried running any of it to see if it just insta explodes. So shall we see what happens? So I'm expecting when we run this, of course, I need to actually set it to, let's see, main 0. Oh, interesting. For some reason, it's still showing on that screen. I guess, well, we'll just do it this way for now. Funnily enough, my 0 is now reporting as 1. There we go. Okay. So we have that. Nothing exploded, which I suppose is good. But now, if I clear all this, I'm going to zoom in so it's not for the size of ants. We're going to cd into .config budgie-desktop. And what did I define as the path? Oh, we are probably not calling save when the file doesn't exist. So I want to cancel that real quick. I'm going to rename. I'm going to go into config.cpp because we just have budgie desktop, but in reality, I want it to be another Q string literal of panels because I want it to reside in .config budgie desktop panels, or alternatively like shell. And this will probably eventually be like refactored into a function. So we create that. Can I just call save immediately? Let's see what happens. Because I have to build it first, but is save gonna immediately write it out? So if I do an ls, we don't have anything. That's not great. Write preferences to config file. All values of, let's see, the values of all registered, blah, blah, blah. Calls user save after writing. Okay. Maybe there's something I need to call to just make sure it saves defaults. Because when I first started up, I wanted to create that file immediately. And then we have the file, so by the time the Q file monitor, the Q file watcher starts watching it, well, the file exists, so it can watch it. If that makes any sense. In my brain, it does. But my brain works in mysterious ways. So we have our, what was it? This is from KConfig Skelly boy. KConfig Skelly. So, save. Is save needed? I don't care if save is needed. Is that defaults? That would override things. This method calls user set defaults. That's not what we want. Use for reading and writing. See also shared config. Use defaults. User save. Override. So what does save do then? Called from save. Okay. I could do something where I first check the file. If the file doesn't exist, we do maybe a user set defaults and then a user save. Maybe that would work. I feel like that's something that KConfig probably already does behind the scenes somewhere, but it's just not obvious to me based off this doc. Let me take a look at the other docs. Like KConfig here. Simple. We're just gonna search for save. To save the current state of the config, we call blah. It's also when it's destroyed. Let's see. If no changes have been made, or the resource reports itself as not writable, no disk activity occurs. Sync merges changes performed concurrently by other processes. Local changes have priority though. Want to make sure we call it reparse, which then calls sync and reloads from the disk. Mark as clean, followed by reparse. All right, well that didn't necessarily help me out. Of course, the alternative is it actually did write it, and I'm just blind and wrote it somewhere else. I don't think that would be the case. I didn't mess it up this time, I don't think. Because it should be a panel RC file. Let's double check though. At the very least, it's not there. So that's something. Okay. Let us try if the file does not exist. File doesn't exist. Make sure we create it so we can monitor immediately. So we do that. And it's what, maybe set defaults and save. I don't know. Test build. Run. I mean, worst case is it does absolutely nothing, right? And it did absolutely nothing. What the hell? Reparse, which calls sync. Let's look at the documentation for sync. Sync. Yeah, it must be up a level. And oh, that's inherited by blah. KConfig Scaly Boy is just from QObject. So did I miss it? Set defaults, read. We do it by the shared config, which is a pointer to this as well, which inherits KConfig. So maybe KConfig would config writable. Copy from, so you could copy it from a different KConfig. Can we set read defaults? When set, all read entry calls return the system-wide default values with the defaults. Off by default. Set main config name. Yeah, reparse. Method called sync. Sync the configuration object that this group belongs to. Unrelated, not overridden. I'm just gonna do shared config sync. If somebody has a better idea in chat, I am all ears. Right now, I'm just trying to get the dang thing to work. Man, it's not working. Delete. Right config mode. Oh, that's the right config flag. So it's not any of those. This might be one of those instances where I had to do the very scary thing and just ask in the one of the KDE development channels. I know, terrible. But I'm curious what happens if I just touch the file. I want to do this. qdebug. File does not exist. I don't think my... Do I have a task run here? Please tell me I have a task run. Which has it? Fumped. Oh, I already have a fumped up here. Rip that one out. I don't. But I call this, I guess. Equals star.debug equals true. No, I can't bring myself to that. I have the right just to run. Just run like I do with everything else. Run. Description. Run the panel and debug. And we're gonna grab this. Commands, CMDs. It's gonna be just /build. Actually, I don't even have to do it that way because it's in build bin. So I can set the dir to build bin. And then the command itself is just org buddies of budgie.shell. And then if I run task run, it's gonna vomit out a bunch of stuff, and it's gonna be a real pain for me to find anything in here. And I search panel, that's search terminal, no. Oh, what? Also, where did, oh, then I put it on. All right, I am glad I'm going to be implementing using the output because it actually, I changed nothing and it put it on my other monitor. Is it dependent on, for some reason? Oh, because I've been running it here. I don't know, man. Well, I'll fix it soon enough, hopefully. But if I run it again? No, it's still on that screen again. Okay, well, I'm going to do this. And it's back on that one again. Okay, change it back. And it's still, what the? Alright, that's just maybe a little ridiculous. Split it top and bottom, and zoom in here. I'm gonna go to code budgie-shell task run here. Oh my god, why do you want to appear on that monitor of all the screens? All right, what is this? Can I get to queue list? I wish these screens were sorted by position. Let's see. Auto screens is equal to app.screens for. Oh, and then we also need, it's going to be latest geometry as a rect, I guess, is equal to qrect of 0, 0, 0. I mean, it's really just a Q point. It's not even this. Q point. And we're going to iterate for auto screen of screens. If screen dot, so we have the depth, we have geometry. So it has the rectangle. So we're gonna create auto X and Y. Actually, I could just do. Q screen. Can I just create an empty one? Just give me. Let me make a fake one. Fine. We're gonna do standard optional Q screen. No, pointer. Standard null pointer. Null opti. Alright. Where's a null pointer to? Null pointer T, I think. Because I think each one of these is a so if latest rect not has value, if it doesn't have a value, we are going to say left leftmost screen. Damn anybody that has their primary on their right. Sorry guys. Leftmost screen for now. You can hate me later. Leftmost screen. If it doesn't have a value, then we are going to set leftmost screen to screen, and we're going to continue. Otherwise, we know we have a value, so leftmost screen opt, auto leftmost screen opt. Auto leftmost screen is equal to leftmost screen dot. So we know this is going to have a value at this point. And if this screen is, I want to see grab handles, geometry change. It was related to its geometry. We have move left. I want to know if it is just left. X. I mean, this would actually be much simpler. X is less than leftmost screen opt. Leftmost screen dot geometry dot x then leftmost screen is equal to screen. Right, so because I'm expecting this to be like 0, 0 and my right one to be like 38, 40 or whatever. And then we take a leftmost screen here. The Q string is equal to this dot has value leftmost screen dot value, or it's just gonna be, we'll keep it to Evans, I guess. We have target screen. I don't think this is gonna work. It would be funny if it did though. Fucking did. That's way too much noise as well. If this is left and leftmost screen, then I mean, I guess we don't even have to do that. we don't have a value, we set it. Oh shit, it's because we're doing this. Leftmost screen. No, that seems right. Leftmost screen opt is equal to this, and we continue, and then we check if the value has a key message. View info. Setting screen to the one at screen geometry. I'm going to do this. Auto geo is equal to screen geo. I'm not going to type this more than x and geo dot y. This is going to be geo. View info. Default. Setting screen to the one at geo.x. No, test build. This was not the derailment I was expecting. All right, setting the one to that. Setting screen to follow. All right, so we get that. And the leftmost becomes this. We have a value. So it should be this. That's our target screen. You know what? We're just gonna do this has to exist. Opt dot has to have a value. Auto leftmost screen dot value. Target screen must be a thing. Setting screen to the one at 3840. Setting screen to the one at 0. Setting screen to follow. Setting screen to follow what? Because it definitely isn't. Because I definitely see it on my other panel. Which is not what I want. I mean, ignoring that, we still don't have a config anyways. So that's not great. And I'm gonna just, there's too much logging with that one Q debug. So I'm just gonna set it to view info. File does not exist. So it should basically always call this. Yeah, file does not exist. So it should save it. Even though it should have saved it up here, you know? We just do this. Well, shared config. Do I have to use shared config? No, that just has a sync. Read defaults. Because we have defaults set in the config, so I'm a little puzzled by why that isn't working. But instead of farting around with that for the next 20 years, let's open up a new tab. We're gonna go to config budgie desktop lab wc. Can we set a window rule? rc.xml for, let's see, window rules here. window rule. Identifier. I don't know what the identifier is going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be org buddies of budgie.shell. And we are going to see if we can place this on the correct monitor this way. Action name. I'm not sure what the action is yet. I'll have to take a look at the window rules. Slash window rule. We have that. Let's check window rule labwc. So we have name, decorations, fixed position. It's not what I want. I think it's a window rule action. labwc action. And the action would be to move to, I think it's actually set to like a given screen. Output. Next window. Move to output. Yes. So this is going to be like so. Move to output. It might actually, it might be HDMI A1. I don't know what's going to happen when I call the reload labwc, but let's find out. And then we close this, and then rerun. No, that didn't fix it. The identifier might not be this then. Org buddies of budgie-shell. This is the getting in the weeds I was not expecting to have to do, all because of this. I find it really strange that it's able to get the right screen. It just isn't setting it to. Let's maybe see if there is main. If the geometry, the X is 0, the leftmost screen opt is equal to screen break. We don't need this. There we go. All right. I don't think it was this. I'm gonna drop that. Okay. Well, now that we got that mystery solved, you could see the beautiful pink pink panel there. I'm gonna see what happens when I just make panels. What do we call? I hard code it to this. Make dir panels slash this. And then I'm going to touch panel slash blah slash panel RC. And if I restart it, what happens? File does not exist. I'm sorry, what? Where is it checking? Config budgie desktop. Standard path, config location, and then we join it to, what is this? I have to queue message. Let's see. Config path is this. I write that out. And we're also going to skip a little bit forward so we actually have some music because there's blocks of silent and that's some. That fails because. Why is that failing? Because it's not queue message, it's queue info. Alright, so now if we run it, budgie desktop shell. Ah, right. Okay. ARM tech RF panels. Shells. No. Budgie desktop shell panels that panel RC. We were close. Shell panels. Now, if I do this, it doesn't complain about it. And now, if I cd into shells, can I cat the panel RC? It doesn't say anything. Why isn't it? I'm gonna read the default sync. I'm gonna do all of this. What the fuck? I would expect there to be defaults that it would read. Let me double check panel config CPP. So we have a skeleton, right? Have a bunch of items. Size, we set minimums. The value is dictated here, right? M size here, mode false. Like we have defaults. Set the current group. Like those are all fine. And this is in the panel config. We open it up. And we say, okay, it's this thing. That's the K file, K shared config. Because I don't feel like I had to write a value, but maybe that value was. All right, well, here's what we're gonna do. Because the file exists, let's try to see if any of this works. So we're gonna want it to be, I think it was appearance. Do the KCFG. Yeah, appearance is gonna have size. We're gonna say this is 64. That did nothing. We got nothing. Q info. File changed. Well, if I do this. Okay, so we are getting that file changed. I feel like it might have something to do. If I load the file, read preferences from the config file. All registered items are set to the values read from disk. This method calls user read after reading the settings of registered items from KConfig. You can override the user read and derived classes if you have special requirements. And then we do a reparse, which updates the state of our object. This method will call sync first, so as to not lose. Yeah. So that would be my expectations. Is that it is then set to 64. I mean, we could check, right? Like if I Q message size, and we do size. Q info. I would expect that as I change it, do this. 48. I just do this. The load. What am I doing wrong? Let me compare this against Magpie. We have our on config changed. When we do that, we load from our static config, which is us. And then we get our shared config, which is within our thing. And then we reparse. I mean, we're doing the rereading of our value, but that is coming just from that. The KConfig group of mconfig. But our mconfig in our context is our kshared config, which is set. Wait, hold on. Did I? No, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Set here. Mconfig. Don't tell me. What I swear we are setting this somewhere else. Did I accidentally delete that somewhere? I'm gonna have to pull up the VOD later. There's no way. I bet this was it. I mean, I know for a fact this is it. If I save this. 96. Okay, now I'm actually really fucking puzzled. Read defaults. Let's delete all this, because I feel like that's interfering with things. Reparse load. Uncheck that. Let's just try to get it as close to Magpie as possible, because Magpie works. So if Magpie works. Wow, who would have thought, Josh, that when you make it closer to Magpie, you're already working code, then that would work. It's not updating our panel. However, we can import the config directly anyways. And I would like to think that as we update those, the value changes, and then the thing would automatically resize or whatever. So let me look up the QML KConfigXT QML singleton thing, QML register singleton, and then we would import it and then have config. So ours would be an import of org buddies of budgie-shell.panel.config. No, shell 1.0, I think is what I had. QML set blah blah blah. Oh, it's gonna be in view. Org buddies budgie shell panel 10. So instead of this, the width is going to be config width. I think when the do we have signals for this? Width changed. So when our config changed, we should check if they are equal. Possibly. I want to see what happens on view. We have we need a signal setup. I'm gonna grab this from here. No, actually I don't think we need to do that. We can do a connect after this. So we connect our mconfig, which is going to have then a budgie-shell panel config. What is the thing? Let me look up the connect here. The pointer to, we have a with is with config. And we have all the items. Have our setter, disconnect. We have our config changed. No, we must do panel. Queue properties. Item changed. We have a signal here. Yeah, no, we do have this. Like size changed. Size changed. On budgie-shell, right? Yes, budgie-shell panel config. Size changed. What do you mean it doesn't exist? We do a QMA here. Panel config. New property. We have a notify. Like, we have it. Ah, okay. But this needs to be the config, I think. Right? Or it's technically itself, but it's the... no, the parent is the panel. This should work, so maybe it needs to be config budgie-shell panel config. Size changed. On size changed. Config, I mean, I know we have a config changed. I guess what I could do is have, this should at the very least have the thing of what changed, right? What the? I feel like I'm looking at the wrong things. That's budgie-shell panel config. This is also the same thing though. And we have emitters. We're looking at mconfig. Ah, maybe it just needs to be config itself. But these are KConfig, panel config. I mean, that's all the same. Like, there's no... like, there's set size and all that. But why aren't those? Because this is a notify function. I want to take another look at, let's see, this signal. Signal will be emitted when you call save. It also listens to the generic config change from KConfig skeleton to notify your application about configuration changes. That's not what I want though. Like, we have individual signals that are generated. Let's see. They're right there. I see them. I have to check this. What am I doing for connect here? File change. No. Find it interesting that they do a lower camel case and this is upper camel case, but item changed with the signal flag. I mean, do we even have that? Do we have no, like we only have this. Are they public? I'm not seeing any indication that they're private. All I want to do is hook up the size changed. That's all I want. That's all I want to do. It should not be that complicated. Yeah, it's public. Like we're looking at this, right? I don't think it's the config itself. I mean, it's a pointer to it, to what? Panel config. Panel config. Size. Dock modes. Like we have all of these. Shared config. There's size. Like what is, so size is just gonna be like, it's just an int. Because I think it should just be size changed. And then we do like this. And then we do like a reference to like a view on, like we just connect it to size changed. You know? Like our own size changed event. But this just straight up does not exist. Well, we have signal stuff. I'm gonna do something ridiculous. I'm not gonna like it, but we're gonna do changed. Config changed. And we're just gonna do this view. And it's gonna be width changed. On and let's see. View signal. Width changed. Yes. Do this. Of course, that's I'm gonna do a height change as well. I just want to get it working, okay? My brain's cooked. I'm gonna answer. Nobody judge me. All right, redo. Oh, come on. Config. Fine. I just do this. All right. 96. I mean, it's like, oh, right. We haven't updated our, I feel like this should just be a function that returns the thing based off it. The panel, what is the thing for us to even, like, how would we know to rebuild it? Width changed. Like, I feel like that would then hook up into that. See, width. Mconfig size. So this is going to be the height of it. So Q message, Q info. Height should ideally be, the orientation is horizontal, and config size. Why should I ideally be 32? No. Shouldn't be 32. I guess that's the default, but then we load our thing, and then it should be larger than that. So are we actually getting the event, but it's not? Is there config? Oh, what is going on? Size is here. 96. We reparse. Of course, we are listening into our budgie panel config change thing. I'm gonna have a Q signal for void config changed. I'm pretty sure this is overriding it, but okay. Then we're gonna emit config changed. Affected. Do that. Let's see what happens. What does height change even do? Update position. Anchors request update, which updates the exclusion zone to height. Remap. Orientation is this. This never actually gets called. I feel like we should just be pulling it from our config instead. Oh, it's time to look up, let's see, QML functions. Because what I expect I will want to do, have a a component shouldn't have to do that. I mean, the example here isn't indicating that at all either. On with changed. Oh shit. Application window width. Does it only exist in the QML? On with change, we set config. I want to just try in panel here. Instead of panel height, I want to go config.size. It might not even be this, it might just be a okay. It's not quite what I was expecting. Let me open it. That's really bright. Oh my god, my eyes. I gotta kill that quick. I'm blinded. Kill that guy. Org buddies of budgie-shell. Oh, fucking hell. Got flashbanged. Alright. No, that wasn't it. So it doesn't seem, yeah, it's not a function. Well, we know that now. Okay. All right. Great. Cool. Does running it now not blind me? Fuck no. Let's see. It should be. It's not yelling about it. 96. Before it's just like setting it to, you know, like 32 or whatever. So why is it blinding me with seemingly a max we have config. Yeah. I'm not quite sure that's working, guys. I have a sneaking suspicion that there's something wrong with what I'm doing here. We take a look. They import it. They do kirigami, and then they do width, and then config width. And they have the config, which is config self. QML register wait, what? What is the config self? Why is it doing self? Why are they doing self? And why am I almost certainly not doing self? So if we do view QML auto conf is equal to mconfig self. It's config self. Config is not a class or a namespace or whatever. Declared back here. I understand. So they are doing config as instantiate the class. I guess we don't really need to do that. Like we've done that. Config is config here. Config. All right. Flashbang warning. In 3, 2. Oh, it failed to build anyways. Okay, never mind. Because that is not a thing. Config, even though it tells me it's not self. Because this should be the. Like our config is a panel config. So we should have all this. I mean, this is even a thing, so it's just like that. That's just wrong. Wrong info there. That's probably why it's doing that at the very least. But we have that working at least. Let's write this down. Let's write it down in the book. The book of things Josh has got to do with this. All right, so 1, config needs to automatically save when the file does not exist already. That's the first one. So the second one is WTF is wrong with hooking up config to you. 3, where did all my signals go? Question mark. Just some pain points, clearly. But this seems like it's going to be another one of those multi-part series in terms of integration of this. I suppose that's all right, though. But we'll go ahead and end here. Not have this go on for too long. We did actually make some progress, though. Like we have a config defined. We have it generating with the QML, not the QML, with the CMake stuff that we were expecting. We have a config class that integrates with it. That, I mean, I'm still trying to debug stuff, right? But we are actually getting file changes and reparsing it and recognizing when the size change happens, and then emitting a config change. But that config change just isn't the thing. That's that config change just isn't doing what we need it to do. But that's all right. And then of course we have all that panel QML that Evan wrote, and I tried hooking up just to use panel. Actually, now that we know this doesn't work, let's just rip that back out. I was expecting just to be able to use his getters, modify those, which I did, but that doesn't seem to work. But it may be that I just need to hook some stuff up. I don't know. I don't know what the process is of like auto magically updating these properties to things. But we will find out in the next one. So yeah, I hope you guys and gals have a good one. I will keep you updated on my social medias, of course. Mastodon and Blue Sky. If you go to my personal website, which is linked in the comments, you'll see it. But of course, if you follow Buddies of Budgie on any social medias, then I usually boost when I am planning a stream. On the next stream, we're going to continue this, at least as far as I'm aware. I will also tinker outside of the stream on this and see what sort of progress I can make. Because it may be, at least I'm hoping, that I don't have to do another stream on this, because we have a good old backlog of things that have been itemized on our forge for at least some of the things that are going to be going into preview. Not everything has been itemized because I don't want to get too ahead of myself, and also because some of the stuff that we'll be working on, like the extensions themselves, we need to figure out a proper model for. And some of that experimentation sort of ties into like having a config, right? And then with that config, you then have UUIDs of extensions. And then you get to the point of what is an extension, and starting to load those and tinker with the model for that. And then on top of that, there's tons of Magpie work. It's endless, right? We're building we're building a desktop environment from scratch. So there's still there's some work to be done there. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and I will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one. Bye bye.